Om Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, God Supreme Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Today I am speaking on the subject, Thou art the kernel, not the shell. You are very important and so don't degrade yourself anytime. Don't develop any kind of complex. All the challenges we are facing in life can be boldly attacked if we have Vedantic approach to life. Vedantic approach. Each one is a hero. There is no death for the individual at all. No death. So, our spiritual practices are meant only to rediscover what we have lost on account of ignorance. It is the ignorance that is responsible for all our suffering. Any kind of suffering that might come, whether you may accept it or not, ignorance is a root cause. So let us try to know how to keep ourselves cheerful. Vedanta inspires you with immense strength. And so, with this Vedantic attitude, you would be able to face all challenges in life. It teaches you to purify your inner personality. Inner personality. Not outside garb. Outside you all look very well. You can make up also. Even the most ugly person can become most beautiful by just having a makeup. It's possible, particularly in modern times. So, what is inner personality here? It is referring to your mind. Vedanta attacks the correct target. Mind is responsible for everything that is happening in this world. Let us try to remember this first important point. Mind, mind, mind. What is stored up in the mind? We have to probe. We are familiar with serpents, We are familiar with so many types of harming animals. There is a poisonous serpent. It has got many heads, many tongues, and fangs. That poisonous serpent is staying in the lake of your mind. Are you aware of that? Vedanta shows you, look, you are suffering because of that poisonous snake in the lake of the mind. You are not seeing it, so you are suffering. You can go anywhere in the universe, you can't avoid suffering until and unless you find that poisonous snake in your own lake of mind. That's what Vedanta tells. What is this poisonous snake? Then again Vedanta tells you, these are your selfish propensities, your all sorts of desires, all sorts of attachments, increasing, multiplying your attachments. Today I brought something, tomorrow I am bringing something. Today I am becoming friend with somebody, tomorrow I am becoming friend with somebody else. So keep on adding to whatever we have. So attachment plus attachment going on ad infinitum. The more the attachment, the more suffering is stored up. So Vedanta tells you must single them out, overcome them and destroy them one by one. Don't make it half dead. Half dead is dangerous. Kill it completely. That means it requires firm resolutions, and Solomon vows to do away with this serpent in the lake. Once that poisonous snake is removed from the lake, that purifies the water. That purifying water is nourishing. It gives you joy. So, from the recesses of your heart, you should pick up all points of weakness and eradicate them. When the desire is destroyed, you will find the objects of desire coming to you. This is the significance of Lord Krishna killing the dreadful poisonous serpent in the lake. When all the wives of the serpent paid homage to him, there is a divine law. Our scriptures point out, Mahatmas point out, it is that we shall be pure. That is our birthright. We are pure by nature. The impurity has been imposed on it. So, harbor impurity and you must suffer the consequences. Do any kind of wrong deed, entertain any kind of evil feeling or thought, you must be visited with pain and suffering one day or other. Sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. This is the most stern, unrelenting law of life. So, what's to be done? When grief comes, there is no point in increasing your grief, becoming more and more depressed thereby, losing all appetite. That's not the way. When problem comes, when difficulties come, when grief comes, you should try to diagnose and prognose the feeling. Find out the root, the cause for your grief, and then find the remedy for it. You may consult any instructive book, Bhagavad Gita, Bible, many holy scriptures are there. With all that, you must get on to your own thinking, reflection, meditation, and then eradicate the inherent flaw in you. Remove that flaw forever. When you are thoroughly convinced that you have overcome this one weakness, take up others one by one. Similarly, diagnose and prognose each of them. Talk to yourself. Analyze, reflect, contemplate, meditate upon each one of them independently. Then take action immediately. Crush them one by one. As I had pointed out in my prayers, there is but one fundamental source for all the evils, one common cause for all sorrows, one substratum for all the misery in the world, and that is ignorance. Ignorance appearing in different forms and shapes, but all stemming from the deepest root, the ignorance of your own self. Out of sheer ignorance, you have lost your identity with your own self. Because you are identifying with your false self, you are all the time in trouble. All the time. You have identified yourself with your body, mind, intellect. You acquire, accumulate, aggrandize all sorts of things for their sake, for body, for mind and intellect. You want to give them pleasure, but you can never satisfy them. They demand more and more. That causes agitations and sorrows. So, Vedanta says, leave your infatuation for these material things. Go deeper into your personality. So Vedanta tells you very clearly, you must turn inward, full turn, 180 degrees turn. Remove your ignorance, unfold yourself. You gain real and enduring bliss. If you want to have the experience of peace and bliss, you have to turn yourself completely. See yourself. We always see outside, We don't see ourselves. So the next point Vedanta tells you what is important. Free thinking and reasoning are very essential for natural growth of spirituality. You grow into greater spiritual dimensions only when you dive deep into your own inner self. Otherwise you remain like bonsai, miniaturized trees. In Japan they have lots of these dwarf trees, 300 years old, 400 years old, cedars and pines. They are kept dwarfed as onion plants. How they do it? By cutting their inner rootlets. When the roots are not allowed to strike deep into the soil, the trees cannot shoot high into the air. Similarly, when you are prevented from penetrating deep into the core of your own personality, you remain as spiritual dwarfs. So, get into the depth of Vedantic knowledge, examine it per se. Take up religion as you would physics or mathematics. Do not take anything for granted. Somebody has said like this. No. Don't refer to anybody that way. Always refer to your own self. Study the subject matter of religion carefully. Reflect over it deeply. Understand it thoroughly. Whatever knowledge you have digested, apply it in your life. When knowledge is tested and found working in your practical life, it becomes your own. This is the method of unfolding the supreme truth lying within you. Incarnations come, Mahatmas come, Gurus come, they all help you to unfold yourself. They just give suggestions. You must approach religion with your own senses, with your own heart and head. Use your own eyes and ears and then judge. Judge not through the opinion of others. Be not hypnotized by statements of others. People keep on telling so many things. Rise above this weakness. Be free. Use your own faculties. Arrive at your own conclusions. Vedanta is very particular about that. Form your own judgments. You will then place yourself above all suffering and sorrows. You will discover your real self, the spirit. The main cause of suffering in the world is that people do not look within. They do not form their conclusions and judgments. They depend on outside forces to do their thinking. To evolve spiritually, you will have to inquire into yourself. So according to Vedanta, the self is the theme of all religions. You can find it yourself right within you. You may make use of the scriptures in your efforts, but seek the eternal within you. Truth lies deep within the core of your personality. You must pass through your material layers and discover the Atman. That is the spirit. Atman is your real self. The problem is, you live in your material personalities. You identify with your physical body, mind and intellect. You become a mere physical, mental, intellectual being. That's all. You get enmeshed in perceptions, actions, emotions and thoughts. So, you suffer. You make yourself miserable. And yet the source of all happiness, the supreme bliss, is within you. Again and again, repeatedly, Vedanta tells you. It is just in your own self. You suffer not because you do not possess that infinite joy, but because you do not know how to delve deep and draw it out. That's the point. In other words, you do not know your own self and its supreme worth. As Emerson puts it, every man is God playing the fool. Religion is simply an attempt to explain and expose the self within you. There's a thick veil of ignorance covering the self that is being called as Maya. Maya. All religions help to remove this veil. Vedanta does it too. One distinct advantage about Vedanta is that every bit of Vedantic knowledge makes the veil thinner and thinner. With more and more knowledge, it reduces the veil of ignorance to its thinnest and enables the Vedantin to live a cheerful and blissful life in the din and roar of the marketplace. The greatest problem facing you today is that you don't want to look in yourself. You are preoccupied with your outer personalities. You are carried out by their enchantments. You have lost your real self. Alas, you know it not. You are not aware of your loss. You feel everything is okay. There's an instance. Once a prince went to Ramtirth, a great saint, Swami Ramtirth. He put a question to him, Swami, who is God? Where is He? Please take me to Him. I wish to see Him. The prince asked these questions. The Swami answered, well, if you wish to see God, I will have to tell Him who you are. So please give me your visiting card. When one wants to see a high dignitary, does he not send his card first? So I will place your card in the hands of God. I am sure He will see you. The prince thought the request was quite reasonable, quite in order to comply with. So the prince took a piece of paper and wrote his name, Gajapati Raju, like some name he wrote. The Swami read it. He returned the slip saying, this is your name. God will like to know who you are, not just your name. Then the prince took back the slip and added, Prince of Vijayanagaram. Then the Swami said, this is your position. The prince thought over deeply and wrote finally, man. Then the Swami answered, no, that is your species. The prince wrote no more. He agreed with the Swami and said, I do understand now, sir. I see the fallacy in my concepts. I am only giving you my descriptions, qualifications and attributes. I do not seem to know who am I. Then the prince reflected deeply. He began to introspect. He started the process of self-analysis, just as Ramana Maharshi did. And finally he became the illumined saint. Am I this physical body? No. The body belongs to me. It is in my possession. I am the possessor of my body. I remain changeless while my body undergoes constant change. Physicians prove that after every 7 years, the body of a man is entirely changed. The metabolism, everything gets changed. Every particle of the body is replaced by a new particle. That means this body is in continual flux. So, I am not the body. Then who am I? The prince continued his investigation. Am I the mind or the intellect? No. Again he contemplated. It cannot be. They are also continually changing. Mind and intellect both belong to me. I am apart from my mind. I am apart from my intellect. The Swami asked the young prince to sit quietly and meditate upon the findings of the intellect. He said, understand you are yourself. You are not your body, mind or intellect. Reflect over it. Feel it. Repeat it. Act upon it. If you continue to dwell on this thought only, you will get rid of all your worries and anxieties, your sorrows and miseries. You will then become free. You will realize your supreme nature. This supreme nature of yourself is that which is responsible for all your activities. Every day you do millions upon millions of actions. You move each muscle in your body. You cause each hair on your body to grow. You eat, you produce the juices in the body, you digest, you distribute the digested food, you operate the nerves, you sustain each feeling, entertain each thought. You are that infinite power. Reflect over it, examine it, investigate it, sift it, and draw it out. The prince was astonished. He meditated and realized how silly I had been. I wanted to meet God. I wanted to know God. Now I find my own self, my supreme nature, my Atman. He is that veritable God. So Vedanta tells you emphatically, in very clear terms, Atman is your real self. Spiritual inquiry culminates in discovery of yourself. Atman is a goal of your pursuit. You have to turn introvert, wade through your body, mind and intellect, your gross, subtle and causal bodies, and reach the core of your personality. That is absolute fulfillment of your life. But instead of looking within, you have a tendency to look out. Your inherent inclination is extrovert. You go all out into external world seeking pleasures, joys and all sorts of things. In that process you get totally involved in the affairs of the things of the world. Consequently, you are constantly agitated. Your mind becomes restless. Intellect is deprived of its clarity of vision. You lose objectivity in life. And you suffer. Whereas your self is blissful. It enjoys absolute objectivity. It is not at all involved in the world. Hence it is called Sakshi. Whatever we do, it witnesses, Oh, morning I had a very good thoughts. Sometimes you say, in the afternoon, some bad thoughts came to me. That means you are witnessing both good thoughts and bad thoughts. Both are coming to you. So you can enjoy that state of absolute objectivity and bliss by realizing yourself. For which you should first rehabilitate your mind and intellect. Human mechanism, going through challenges of world, is like a ship sailing in the high seas. After some voyage, the ship becomes deranged. It is put out of order. It needs dry docking. It has to be repaired and overhauled. Similarly, your mind and intellect get deranged by troubles and tribulations of the world. Your equipments lose their natural powers. They have already lost most of their powers. Your inner personality needs to be rehabilitated. Your mind, your intellect have to be regenerated, for which you must keep yourself away from outside influences for some time at least during the day. If you say, I can't do that, then I will say you cannot get rid of suffering at all. So Vedanta tells, for an hour or so every day, pull yourself away from worldly entanglements and live in your own spirit, in your own inner self. During that time, preferably in the early hours of the morning, study spiritual literature which inspires you, contemplate deeply, and live alone by yourself. When you are spending your time in deep meditation and struggling to go inward, at least at that point of time, don't bring the world there again. Even there also, 50-50. 50% of the mind is reading the scripture or prayers, 50% of the mind is outside. No. With spiritual knowledge seeping in and a better understanding of yourself, your agitations and sorrows disappear gradually. Mind gets purified, intellect gets subtler, but you must carry on this practice every day. That's very important. You can't afford to neglect it. Does not your house require to be swept and swabbed every day if you have to maintain cleanliness? Does not your body require to be washed and bathed every day if it is to be kept clean? Similarly, does your mind require to be cleansed and purified daily of worldly ties, clingings and attachments? Your intellect requires to be taught and trained to think originally. Spiritual study and reflection no doubt helps to purify your mind and strengthen your intellect. But the problem facing you today is more than non-availability of your intellect in your day-to-day activities. Non-availability of your intellect. It is one thing to have an intellect, but it is yet another thing to apply it practically in your life. At present, your intellect, regardless of its quality, does not guide most of your actions. You act impulsively. You do what you like to do and not what you ought to do in life. So Vedanta points out very clearly our position. You live entirely at the mercy of your likes and dislikes. You are tossed constantly by likes and dislikes. This is not healthy living. You must hold to the reins of your life, for which your intellect must be alert and available to you at all times. That means you must develop perfect control over your activities. Gaining control of your activities is like a tennis player gaining control of his strokes. Daily practice at the nets help him, no doubt, but to gain masterly training, masterly control over the game, he needs what is known as wall practice. For wall practice, a line is drawn on a wall at the same height as the net in the tennis court. The player practices his strokes by playing the ball repeatedly above this line. Similarly, you can gain control of your activities by practice of introspection. Introspection means self-analysis or self-observation. You may practice introspection every night before retiring. What you need to do is to recollect all your experiences of the day in sequence from the time of rising till the time of introspecting. In the beginning you may not remember each and every activity, but with repeated practice you will be able to recollect the minutest details. So while introspecting, very important point you should remember is that you shouldn't criticize or condemn your activities. Simply observe them. Observe them. Just be aware of whatever you have been doing. Criticizing and censuring may break the trend of introspection. Moreover, it may develop into cynicism and frustration. Introspection is meant to make you fully aware and conscious of your own activities. There are many activities performed by you which you yourself would condemn as wrong. Have you not regretted your own actions? Do you not tell yourself, I should not have done this, after having done something yourself? Then why do you do things which you yourself realize later as wrongful? It is because your own intellect is not available to you at that time. You are not aware and conscious of the nature of your actions. You act mechanically, impulsively. You get involved in your activity. You lose control over your own activity. By introspection, you become acutely aware of your past actions. Introspection further helps you to keep your intellect readily available for executing your actions. Ever so many of your actions escape the attention of your intellect. Your intellect is asleep most of the time. Introspection keeps your intellect alert to guide your activities. Your actions turn out to be more methodic, more meaningful, more purposeful. Thus, spiritual study and reflection helps you to develop a purer mind and a subtler intellect. Introspection enables you to use it at the right time. You become more and more objective in life. You become less and less involved in the affairs of the world. You get nearer and nearer to the center of your personality. With such stability and objectivity, inquire further into yourself. What you are looking for in life is bliss and bliss and bliss. Nothing short of that. You make the best use of your body, mind and intellect to get pleasure, joy, happiness in the outside world. You search in vain. All bliss lies deep within you. Look for it there, you will find it. You will be absolutely fulfilled. It's only when you completely turn yourself on Atman, the indwelling spirit, which is ever shining. If you are able to establish yourself on that spirit, then you will realize you are the kernel, not the shell. Body, all these things, all these forms, they get disintegrated. Forms become formless. Forms cannot remain forever. Forms keep on constantly changing every moment. So the changeless thing each individual soul is veritably that Atman. But since you are not aware of the true nature, you are suffering. In spite of having everything, whatever you want, you are not satisfied. You find a kind of vacuum. Because the real happiness you can get only when you are meditating upon your own self. That is when you realize who you are. Who is this individual being? So, Vedanta tells you to approach the spirit courageously. We are all doing that. We are all doing. But if you do it properly, you will not get frustrated. You are not lost in the heavy current, high voltage current of the world. You must hold on to your true self. That means to maintain that level of thinking, you must be constantly in touch with people who are practicing spirituality, what we call holy association, holy scriptures. There are so many people who have realized, who have become illumined. So look into their life. Try to be more and more practical in your practicing the things. Then only you will have the experience of that supreme joy. So, Vedanta tells you, don't waste your time unnecessarily. Once the time is gone, it doesn't come back. The opportunity given, once lost, you don't know whether you will get it back again. And once you are pulled away by the world, if you are not careful, there is every chance that it would be very difficult for you to turn at all to your true self. That means you will be always suffering and suffering and suffering. Vedanta tells all these sufferings are because of our own making, our own doing the things. So each one is responsible for himself, whatever it is. Nobody else is responsible. So, concentrate on this nature of Atman and dwell upon it, meditate upon it, become more and more busy in thinking about yourself. We are all busy in so many ways, but we are not busy about thinking our true nature. So, all these problems are coming in our life, challenges come in our life. So, Vedanta tells you, give proper directions to your thinking. Make use of your body, mind, intellect properly and enjoy the beauty of life. So, thou art the kernel, not the shell. This idea imprint on your mind. Every day introspect, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. These are the three important disciplines of Vedanta. You must read constantly, every day, holy thoughts. You must keep on thinking these thoughts over and over again. Meditate upon them. Remain peaceful. Try to be peaceful at least for some time, at some appointed time in the early hours of the morning. Then that makes things easy. With these words, I conclude my talk. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. May the Divine Spirit protect us, guide us, give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.